Close your eyes. It's After Images.
You're listening to After Images, a podcast for cinephiles that takes a deep dive into moving images. Each episode features a special guest who is invited to explore a film of their choice. After Images is hosted by film writers Frank Bouleg and Marisa C. Hayes. For our 41st episode, filmmaker Mary Lambert joins us to discuss Zach Cregger's 2025 feature-length film, Weapons. The film is set in Maybrook, Pennsylvania, where 17 children from teacher Justine Gandy's third-grade classroom run out of their homes one night and disappear. As officials search for the missing children, the community blames Justine for what happened. But as the story unfolds, it is revealed that a mysterious woman named Gladys, the aunt of the only remaining third grader, is at the center of this drama. Could she be a witch? Mixing elements of horror, fairy tales, mystery, and social drama, Weapons owes much to Amy Madigan's Oscar-winning performance of Gladys, while Zach Cregger's sophomore feature confirms his talent behind the camera.
Mary Lambert has directed many successful music videos for artists such as Whitney Houston, Motley Crue, Chris Isaak, Madonna, The Go-Go's, Mick Jagger, and Janet Jackson, among others. She is known to horror fans for directing the 1989 adaptation of Stephen King's novel Pet Sematary and its sequel, Pet Sematary 2. She regularly works for the big screen and television, while also continuously working as a painter.
Hello, Mary Lambert. Welcome to After Images podcast.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. And for today's discussion, you've chosen to discuss Zach Cregger's Weapons, the 2025 feature film. And we love to get the conversation going by simply asking, why this film and what does it mean to you?
Well, this film means a lot of different things to me. First of all, it terrified me. I saw it on the screen twice. I saw it in a theater twice because I was so blown away the first time I saw it, and honestly really frightened that I had to see it again so I could watch it in a slightly more analytical way, which I was pretty much unable to do because it's such a powerful film. I immediately fell into the spell of the, just the visceral emotion of that film. And it works on so many levels for me. First of all, it is the Pied Piper. It's the story of the Pied Piper, and fairy tales and myths are an important part of how I work, especially on horror movies. They were my first love. That's how I got through my childhood in the rural South where I lived, and they're very meaningful to me because they're so potent, both in the direct message, visual messages that they give you, and also in the way that they cloak the message in a way that they're cautionary tales for children. They cloak the fairy tales are. Myths are a little bit different. Myths are more expositional. They lay it out. They tell you who the father is and who why people are being punished and why they're powerful. In a fairy tale, you don't really know sometimes why you're being punished. The witch is punishing you. The evil spirit that lives in the forest is punishing you. You don't know the same thing. And that's why I like fairy tales better, honestly. The stories are more mysterious, and you have to apply them to your own religion. You apply them back to whatever your personal religion is. And I'm using the word religion in the broadest sense, like in the broadest sense. So, I was immediately the Pied Piper. I've always wanted to do a Pied Piper story, and I can't anymore because this one's too perfect. And the other reason I love it is because of the witch. The witch is such a powerful figure, and she has her agenda, and a lot of times you don't get to understand what the witch's agenda is in a fairy tale. She just has one, and Cregger gave her an agenda that was very modern in a certain way, in the way that we understand stories in the modern world. We understand why she was doing what she was doing, and it was really evil, and it was really selfish. And those are things that are also very contemporary stories that we need to understand. Why are people so selfish? Why can't they? Why do they think that their own personal reality is more important than the whole village or the whole world for that matter, or the whole universe for that matter? So I don't know. Those are some of the reasons it blew me away.
It seems to me that the fairy tale aspect of the film starts right from the beginning with the voice of that child who's explaining what's happening in the town. It feels very much like Once Upon a Time, like the beginning of a fairy tale. In what sense do you think that fairy tales and witches are relevant to the United States today? What is it that really touched people, because the film was very successful, both critically and from the point of view of people who went to see it? What is it that resonated, according to you, with the audience?
The little girl tells you at the end, that the children came back, but they were never the same. In a certain way, it's about the loss of innocence. I mean, they were never the same. And by inference, the world is never the same. I mean, it's a cautionary tale, but what can we do to stop it? How could the witch have been stopped? I mean, it's not like the little boy was being held hostage by the love that he had for his parents. So he was rendered powerless by his own love, and I think people feel a little powerless right now, especially in the United States, where right now we thought we had a constitution that would protect our rights. It's under attack right now. Some of the basic human rights that we thought were part of why we're a country, we feel like they're being just taken away from us in a way that we don't know how to stop it. It feels unstoppable. So it's not a direct metaphor, but it's that sense of powerlessness against a huge against a force that threatens to destroy your world. And the little boy at the end, when he says, "If I do this, will you go home?" She says, "Oh yes." She lies to him. Everything she says is either a threat or a lie. Saying that you can only get something by bribing or threatening. In this case, it's either threatening or lying. It's not even a bribe. It's a lie. And that sort of powerlessness in the face of this entity that's destroying not only his parents but his friends and his teacher and his world. At the end, when he figures out how to do the spell himself and destroy her. That's so cool. He did it, you know. And so it has it in one sense the protagonist, the little boy, overcomes the evil and stops it. But the little girl tells us at the same time they were never the same. You can stop the evil, but you can't undo the damage that it does. It's just a really kind of truthful. There are a lot of truths in it that just resonate, I think, for anybody, no matter what the era is. Honestly, because that can apply on a small scale, it can apply on a vast scale. You know, once you've destroyed a culture, it'll never be the same again. You may have remnants of it, and I'm not talking even about the United States. The Roman Empire, the Polynesian societies in the South Seas that are being destroyed by global warming. You know, once they're gone, they're gone. There'll be a memory of them, but the dances and the songs and the beauty of the island will be gone. So I don't know. You know, it's just a great story. And great performances by some of my favorite actors. And I got to meet and talk to Amy Madigan at one of the screenings I went to. And she was so great. Wasn't she great?
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Yes.
What a wonderful tour de force for this actress. I mean, she's just incredible. And really, I think this is one of the most recent films that just sent me to bed and I was unable to sleep. And, you know, that's so much due to her wonderful performance of this very, very strange figure who's also going through something so awful. And I'm curious what your take on that is, because I read that the director offered her a choice, and perhaps she spoke with you about this, that choice to represent Gladys as either a kind of normal person who's turned to witchcraft in the face of illness, or as some kind of older primordial creature. Do you have the feeling that she combined those, or do you have any insider tips that maybe the actress spoke to you about?
Well, I mean, I think she kind of combined them, but you know, I think we're all primordial creatures to begin with. You know, someone in the audience at the screening asked Amy how she approached how she made her decisions, how she, you know, what was her sort of leitmotif in the scenes with the boy, you know. And she said that you know, that she didn't go into those scenes trying to frighten him, you know, or her goal in those scenes was to get what she wanted. And from a director's standpoint, I mean, that's the kind of action, that's the kind of playable direction that you want an actor to take. Not like, oh, I'm going to be so scary. Can't be scary. The scariness comes out of what you want, what you're doing, what you're trying to do. And she said that she just went into those scenes with the intention of, no matter what she had to do, she was going to get what she wanted. And that's how she played the scenes with the school principal. Those were great scenes, weren't they? Like, she didn't say, well, I'm going to go in that room and I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that and then I'm going to do this. It was like, I'm going to go in there, whatever he does, whatever he says to me, I'm going to change my direction to get what I want. You know, I'm going to lie, basically. I'm going to tell the lie, but I'm not going to go in there saying, this is the lie I'm going to tell him. I'm going to go in there and as the moment moves forward, I'm going to bring out the weapon that I need to use to get what I want. And I thought that was fantastic, because when you think about her performance in those scenes, that's what she was doing. When he asked that question, you know, and when I do this, can I go home? Will you go home? and you can kind of see her thinking about it.
Mm.
And the little boy is reading it like she's thinking, will I go home? Then she says yes, so he believes her. But what's she really thinking? You don't know, but what she's really thinking is, what do I tell this little boy to get him to do? Do I threaten him? And you feel that something's going on in there, that you just feel her witchy brain working.
Mm. Mm. It's almost as if there were layers behind which she's hiding. And she's wearing a wig, she's wearing various elements that transform her physically to the point that she almost becomes grotesque. She almost becomes like a clown in the fact that she wears too much makeup somehow. And she is funny at moments. I mean, it's interesting to see that there is this tension between she's scary, but at the same time, she can be very funny. And I know that Zach Cregger, the film director, comes from comedy himself. And this tension between horror and comedy is always very interesting. And I wanted to ask you if you have a take on this tension that exists between the two, if they go together well, what they can bring to each other, and how it is being used for the character of Gladys.
Well, I think that there's a very close correlation between horror and comedy. They both use extremes. They both use grotesque extremes to achieve their ends, and everything in between. It's not always grotesque, but that's where they meet. Is in this extremity of grotesquerie, and comedic actors are brilliant in horror. I always look for that when I'm casting, and for years I've been trying to get a project off the ground that would, or do horror comedy is the most progressive form of horror, really, because it's telling us, that, like, examine your nightmare. What draw a picture of it. Is it terrifying, or is it funny? Is it actually, what did the monster look like? Oh my God, 100 teeth coming out of his mouth. Well, is that scary, or is that funny? Is that stupid? Is it absurd? Is it, he had like flames coming out of his ears, and dogs were coming out of his ears, and well, is that funny? Is that scary? It's really. I used to always tell my son that when he would have a nightmare. Well, tell me what happened, and then when he would tell, I said, that sounds like an animated film. That's impossible. That I don't think that could happen. It sounds kind of silly. We could laugh about that. They're very, very closely related. That was what I was going for in Pet Sematary with Clancy Brown's performance, and I truly think he did it. I mean, he's funny and grotesque and terrifying at the same time. But you have to have an actor that's willing to go there, and it's a frightening place to go, because you just have to let yourself loose. You have to, we were talking about at the beginning of our conversation, you can't judge yourself. You can't judge your performance. You just have to let the dogs out to get that performance. And Amy she just let the dogs out, on that performance. And I just also have to give a big round of applause to Trish Somerville, who I've worked with. I had the pleasure of working with several times, and those costumes were brilliant. They were silly and funny and terrifying at the same time. Clowns are frightening. There's a reason for that imagery in it. A clown can be funny, or a clown can be really frightening. They can be silly, but they can also be really sad. And the hair makeup and costuming for Amy was truly genius. Hi, Trish.
And speaking of clowns, that reminds me of the role of children in this film. And you too have worked with child actors.
in a horror context. I'm just wondering how you feel about that, and what are some of the practicalities and artistic concerns when you're working with children in such a context?
I love working with children.
Mm.
They come to you from with a really clean slate a lot of times. The hardest thing about working with children is that a lot of times they learn their lines with a family member who gives them a line reading, and you have to get rid of the line reading. That's the only. Everything else, I mean, most children, by the time they've gotten the part, hopefully you've interviewed them and cast them, and that they want to do it. And a child who wants to do it is like, that's fantastic. The only problems you ever have is if the child is being pushed into it for some reason, again, by their parents, usually, sometimes their peer group, maybe, but a child that, they're just really open, and their faces are so beautiful. If you can just get them to stop acting for a second and just film their faces, that it tells you everything. The boy in this, what was his name? Carrie?
Yes, Carrie Christopher.
Yeah, Carrie Christopher. He was really brilliant. But part of the brilliance was that he was the quietness, and the fact that we knew the pain he was in, but we didn't see it on his face, and it made it even more painful. Because to think that a child would have to carry all that inside of him, that his parents were being tortured at home, and not betray that. That's even worse than having them be tortured. He couldn't tell anybody. There was no, and first of all, that's part of the brilliance of the script, is that we're with that little boy in his pain and his emotional pain every minute. And I don't know what Zach did to extract that performance from him, but it's a difficult performance for an adult actor. In the script, they're lying. He's lying to his wife. She's lying to her child. The queen is lying to her country. The should I say the president is lying to? Whatever. It's hard not to betray that. Because they have the actor is lying, and so if the actor is trying to telegraph that they're really lying, but they're not, but the people, if the actor doesn't convince the audience that they're telling the truth, then they're not a very good liar. And so if the movie's about the lie succeeding, then if other people emotionally believe the lie, other characters, excuse me, if the other characters believe the lie that's being told by one of the characters in the story, then the audience has to believe that the other characters believe the lie, or it becomes farcical, or it becomes flat, and it doesn't give you the same emotion. And this little boy, on one hand, his face was full of pain, and on the other hand, you want him to break. You want him to say, no, tell him the truth. Go ahead, cry, do what you have to do, get help for your parents. But he couldn't do it because he had been threatened. It was a great performance, and the degree to which the fantasy part of it, the supernatural part of it, was also, I think, really well handled by the director, in that, when they're being fed the soup and they're just standing there, and then that fantastic chase at the end where they break out and break through the windows, and then they break through another set of windows, and then they go through the backyard, and then they break another set of windows, and they chase the witch to the ground and rip her jaw off. That was very cathartic. And I know that I don't think I think there were a lot of stunt players in that sequence. I mean, I know there were, but you didn't feel it on the way it was shot and the way it was intercut with the children. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel like they were stunt. I felt like it was really those children. Children can reach you in a way that that an adult actor doesn't reach you. Children react differently to other children. Parents react, differently to children than they do to it. And even, people who don't have children, they're reacting to their own childhoods when they see a really good children's performance on screen. So children are really powerful. I love to work with them, and I always treat them not exactly, but I don't speak down to them or say, "Oh, this is a child, so he or she has to be treated or directed differently," because they don't. If there's a word, if you use a word they don't understand, you just explain it to them. But you can use a word that an adult actor doesn't understand. So it's just there's just no difference. There's just no difference.
In the case of this child, it was very interesting indeed to see that the trauma is internalized, that he can't express it. And it seems to me that there are two locations of trauma for this child in the film, and those are the school on the one hand and the home, which are two locations that are supposedly safe and that are not in this film. And I'm tempted to say in the USA, as far as the school is concerned, that are not safe anymore in reality to a certain extent. And this is very scary. Do you think that this analysis is true to the film, that perhaps there is something there about the fear that surrounds these two places today in the country that might manifest in the film?
Well, I think that's an incredibly interesting observation. I hadn't thought of it in exactly that way, but it's true. I mean, I don't think that all schools are a frightening place. I don't think that all homes are a frightening place, but they're both supposed to be safe places. And schools can be a very frightening place. And the problem we have here with gun control is terrifying. I will never understand why ordinary citizens need to have automatic weapons freely available to buy if they want them. That those are weapons of war. They're not necessary. I don't think domestic violence is the biggest problem that we have going on right now in the United States, but it is true for a lot of children. There is. I think that's kind of worldwide, though. It's not just in this country. There are a lot of children for whom home is not a safe place, and I think that we can go right back to the idea of fairy tales for both of these issues, where you take the place or the thing that is supposed to, your mother is supposed to be the one who takes care of you and keeps you safe. But what if she's not? What if she's abusive? What if she has emotional problems? What if she beats you or abuses you in some other way? That happens. This is a metaphor for that home, and also the idea of the character that Amy Madigan plays. I mean, it's the idea that the mother, the woman, is the one who does the evil thing. I think it's interesting. For a long time, it's been very difficult to find those parts for women because the public doesn't want to acknowledge that. The studios that make the movies don't want to acknowledge that. The society doesn't want to acknowledge that. And therefore, the people who make the movies and stand to profit from their, from their success don't want to make a movie that goes against what society wants, which is for the mother to be the woman to be the one that takes care of the house and keeps everything safe. And in fact, that's not always true. At the beginning of my career, there were several movies that I really wanted to make that got very close to being made and finally didn't, because we couldn't find actresses that wanted to play that part. Mm-hmm. And it was very brave of Amy to take this part. A lot of actresses wouldn't do it, probably wouldn't have done it. But it's important to point out that, you know, women can be bad human beings too. They're not usually the ones involved in these mass shootings, however, statistically. And that the idea that school is not a safe place. It's interesting that you brought that up, because one of the things that's bothered me every time I've seen the film is that image of the gun, of the automatic weapon that's over the house. When Josh Brolin sees the house and then he sees that image of that automatic weapon, it's like, and I think that is what it has to refer to. It seems like it would have been better to put it over the school. Yeah. If that was the message he was trying to send, but it doesn't matter. It was there. It provokes that discussion of, like, you know, school is not a safe place because bad things can happen there. And the thing is, in this movie, the bad thing that happens to the little boy there, I forget what his character name is. Alex?
Yeah.
Yes.
Alex says the bad things that happens to Alex there is that he has to lie and he has to conceal his emotions. He has to conceal his fear. He has to conceal his sadness. He has to conceal his trauma. But I don't know that that's any worse than having to live through a shooting where you see your friends killed or your teacher killed, and a lot of times that's what happens at those schools. The children witness it, you know, and then they carry that fear with them for the rest of their lives. That you know that there's no safe place, and I have to believe that Alex probably never felt safe again. But you know, that's part of the pain of becoming an adult, is, you know, that for a while when you're a child, you believe there is safety, and then you do realize eventually that there isn't.
Thinking a lot about your work, and an interesting connection that just occurred to me today, because Zach Cregger has spoken a lot about different cinematic homage moments in the film, that he's been inspired by so many different filmmakers, and there are small little tributes interwoven throughout the film, there for the taking. And I think a lot about tributes that I grew up with watching in your work that were so iconic for me, in terms of the way that you revisited films like Orpheus or Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. So I'm curious how you feel as a filmmaker about the idea of homage and the importance for you of incorporating those projects that I assume have meant something to you.
There's a saying that good artists copy, but great artists steal. I mean, you know, that we all have a collective unconscious, and those images are there, and they're part of who you are. They're the stories, you know. Movies are our myths and our fairy tales now. That's what they are, and I don't feel like I'm copying when I use an image. And often, even if I'm trying to copy something, it doesn't look the same or feel the same. I'm always amazed. I'm also a painter. Sometimes I will deliberately try to copy a painting or a style. And when I'm finished, I think I look at it and I think I've copied it. And then someone else looks at it and they don't see it at all. They go, no, that doesn't look anything like a Picasso, or that doesn't look like Marston Hartley. That looks like you. It does. Once you filter it through your own sensibilities, it changes. But it also, it's like, like you filtered the coffee. It's still coffee, it tastes like coffee. It's like it has the strength of what you filtered it through, but it's presenting a different take on it. It's just like when Frank said that about a school being a safe place, and bingo, all of a sudden I'm realizing something that I hadn't thought about in this movie that I've seen twice in the theater and also a couple of times on the Academy screening site, that the power in that boy's performance is from the fact that the school is not a safe place, but it's not because he is threatened there. It's because he can't. It's because something even worse is happening. He can't show his pain. He has there's nothing that can help the pain that he's feeling. I mean, that's what I love about filmmaking, and what gives me energy as a director is collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing things, having a vision or an idea or a story I want to tell, and then seeing it open up like a flower, kind of, when the actors speak the words, or when the production designer shows me a drawing that's exactly what we talked about, but somehow different and better, and more perfectly, a more perfect realization of what I wanted than what I actually saw in my head. It changed in that moment between talking about it and then it comes back to me, and it has the imprint of the other artists that I'm working with, and like the cinematographer and the writer and the all that's the power of filmmaking, is that all these different talents come together. There's different directors control the process in different ways, but there's always a blend. There's always a blend, and I think that's first of all, I hate the term AI, but that's where artificial intelligence fails, is that it just synthesizes these, what's on the internet, and it doesn't draw from the deep well of a human being. It draws from the resources of the internet. If maybe eventually there'll be a computer that has a deep well of humanity to draw from, and then it's going to need some other computers that have the same deep well, and then it'll be, I don't know, I'm prepared to embrace that as a human being if that can happen, because we'll see. I think that there's something inside a human being that is original. There's something inside a human being that is a lot of times the artist, the human being, isn't completely in control of or aware of it. But it has to be inspired. It has to come out through, like, music can bring emotions out of you that you didn't know you had. A beautiful painting, nature, a great film those are the films you have to go back and see again. Why did it move me like that? And those are the paintings you have to revisit. Those are the sunsets you have to revisit, because you don't really necessarily know why in the moment. You just feel the emotion, and you can go back and you can intellectualize it, and sometimes you can find reasons, and you can think about those reasons. There's nothing wrong with trying to interpret your feelings or dissect the experience, but there's also nothing wrong with just enjoying it. There's nothing wrong with admitting that the sum is greater than the parts sometimes.
That
I'm a really bad. Go ahead.
Sorry. That just reminds me what you're saying of something that Zach Cregger has also commented on his process of writing, and saying that he really attempts to shut off his brain because he doesn't want the intellect to take over, that there's this very instinctual creative process that he goes through for writing his films.
I agree with Zach about, dream logic. Sometimes there's just a logic that it's not logical. Why this is beautiful, why this is frightening, why this is fun. You can try to explain it, and maybe you can explain it, but if it doesn't just hit you in the moment, then the explanation doesn't do any good. You can explain why this is going to be scary, and it won't be scary. Or why this is going to be beautiful, and it won't be beautiful. It just either is or it isn't. And those are the things that just come out of you sometimes. Another director that does that really well, another, young director, is Emerald Fennell. And I don't always like everything she does, but she does that really well. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, Emerald, but it doesn't, but it really works. I want to know why. I want to see more of it. I want to go there. I want to go there. I'm going there. I would define it as dream logic.
As we draw to a close, is there any moment or other aspect of the film that you'd like to mention, or are you happy here?
Perhaps you were mentioning this idea of collaboration, and it seems to me that the script itself, the storytelling, is very much collaborative in the sense that it is told from various perspectives. There is this idea of seeing the same moments from different viewpoints. And I was wondering if you had an idea why the director had chosen this form of storytelling for this film.
Or perhaps how it works for you as a viewer, too.
Well, that's a good question, Frank. Because what I was pondering in my mind, was how to phrase it. But I think the other aspect of the film that's really powerful is the different performances. That each one of them was really powerful in its own way, more so than usual. Usually in a horror movie, you follow you're in one person's point of view, and you feel the horror very strongly, or for that reason you identify with that character. And of course, in this movie, it was Alex's character. It was his movie, but the fact that the genius of the script was the way that we did follow the different points of view, and it really gave you a chance to explore the emotion and the awakening horror in each one of these characters. And I mean, from Julia Garner to Benedict Wong, the man who played the principal. He was so good. I loved, and normally in this, if the film had been done in a more conventional way, you wouldn't have identified with his character, with Benedict Wong's character in the same way, because he gave a really great performance, on the surface as the principal and doing what he had to do. But then we went back and got to see the whole thing from his point of view. That scene with his husband or his partner at their home when they're having their little TV snack and the doorbell rings, that scene had so much more power because we got to see it a second time. We didn't actually see it the second time, but we did get to see it a second time, because the time when we saw it, we were seeing it through his point of view. So instead of flashing back to that scene, which is what most conventional films would do, they would flash back to that scene. We didn't flash back to it. We flashed back to his whole arc, and that we didn't see the scene until we saw it, in a continuity with his world, and it made the scene so much more frightening, because we knew that when she rang the doorbell that he and his and his sweet partner were about to be devastated in some way. So yeah, at first it was a little confusing the first time that Zach knocks back and starts over again. And I was a little bit, the first time I saw it, I was like, what are we doing here? We just saw that. Wait a second. But it immediately becomes clear what's happening. It honestly makes the film more fun to watch the second time, because it's coming. But it's not like, oh, I know the scare is coming, it's not going to scare me so much. It's like, oh, I know I'm going to get to see Julia, from the very, very beginning again, and I really want to see that, because I didn't know what was going on, and now I do know what's going on. And Julia Garner was also really powerful. She's another one of my favorites. The casting was really good, and Josh Brolin. I would watch Josh Brolin butter toast. He's just fun to watch. He was, you're so happy when he finally is reunited with his son. You just want him to find the son. The technique or a device really worked. Good work, Zach. And I love the way I'm thinking it, and then Frank asked me the question. I was just thinking that.
Special connection.
To come back to this notion of the construction of the script, I thought that was very interesting, that it's the character played by Josh Brolin, who is a construction contractor who finds where the house with the children is, because he draws on a map the place where the children have run to. He localizes them based on almost triangulation. And I thought that was very interesting, because somehow it illustrated what happens with the script itself that is crossing all of these voices. Do you agree with this? Can, in the sense that I see almost a geometry of horror that is happening there?
Yeah, well, I think that it's very much in keeping with the idea of this as a fairy tale. He uses his tools. He's like the wizard. He's like he uses the things that are in his magical book, or in his toolkit, or in his he uses his magic. He uses his powers. And we all have powers. We all have powers of deduction and ways to figure out what's going on. And at first he's angry, and he lets his anger overtake him. He's just, he just wants to punish Julia Garner. He wants to punish Justine for because he blames her. And then when he gets over that a little bit, he uses his troop. Instead of using his anger, he uses his power, his magical powers to find to find his son. And that's kind of the way I would see it. But math is a magical power. It is for me. I can't. I just have to guess,
Well, thank you so much. Your appreciation for the film is clear, And we hope that many people will discover the film and also look at your work. We're going to drop a link into the podcast so that people can visit your website to see the wonderful paintings that you've made recently and learn more about all of
That would be fantastic. I would love that, because I do. That's another way that I express myself and, keep myself from going crazy is my painting.
Thank you for listening to After Images. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast app and follow After Images podcast on social media.
After Images.